Looks like I'm good.
How are you doing today, Chris?
Good, you?
I'm doing well. It's always awkward doing the second hellos when you start doing this stuff.
That's okay, as long as we don't get to the third or fourth.
Yeah, exactly. It feels a little forced. I think it's also saying hello to everyone else, too.
It's just a good thing.
So we're talking about conflict today. It's always a kind of a conflict picking out a topic, you know.
Yeah.
Trying.
It's like, what do you do? What do you don't do?
And if anyone's out there wants to leave a comment, message either of us and has an idea, we're all for picking up different subjects and stuff like that. You can find Chris here on Fire, Wings, and Swords, right? Or is it Fire, Swords, and Wings?
Yeah, Fire, Swords, yeah.
Dyslexia. And I'm Dallas the Mad Hatter Smurf. You can find me pretty much everywhere if you look. There's only like 20 Dallases around there, so.
Alright.
So, did you have any good challenges or conflicts over the last week since we talked?
Yeah, probably just like dealing with different things, like trying to keep things user friendly without having a big mess.
I get that. Yeah, I started doing some work, so it's kind of the same thing, similar in a different way. Knowing the environment, and I always thought about that new fish in the fishbowl. Everything's a little different. Doesn't matter where you go, and that's the whole like little bit of conflict because you don't know where to go for things, and you feel kind of out of place.
Yeah, exactly. Or who is the big fish in the fishbowl?
Yeah, well, I never really liked business politics, so I do well with it, and I just kind of talk to everybody as the same, and sometimes that goes well, sometimes not so much, but it's fun either way.
Yeah, has to be fun.
But I would say that's one form of conflict, just new experiences and stuff like that. Conflict with the unknown. It's probably one of the hardest ones too, because if you don't know, which way do you go?
Yeah, or you could just do what some people do the avoidance thing. Not me, not going there. I don't know what you talk about. Huh?
Yeah. Well, the whole, not reclusive, but I think that's a choice in itself, though. Like not choosing not to do anything or try to hide in the back room. But being a new person in any environment is kind of like a spotlight on you. Everybody notices you. It's like the first day, into a new school or something like that. Hey, everybody, look at the new kid.
Yeah, exactly.
Say your name and a little about yourself. Hi, I'm Dallas, and I'm here. I don't know.
Exactly.
But it's, I think that's one really important conflict to mention. We should talk about in our time conversation.
Yeah.
In this time. What kind of conflicts would you like to talk about?
Let's see. I mean, I don't know. There's always the big like kind of like what we said a little bit earlier. The big do you touch it? Do you leave it alone syndrome, or like or the one where they always catch you off guard, like what did you just say to me, and then you have to think on the spur how to react, and that's always kind of can be interesting conflict too, because if you're depends on what mood you're in, what situation you're in. If you're already having a bad day, and then you just like, oh yeah, and you just let them have it,
And I think that's the biggest thing to note about that is, yeah, there's an external conflict there, but there's also an internal conflict, depending on what instance you're running across. Probably the most exhausting too. But to know what to do before you actually come across the instance, so you can be quick on your feet, or you know what to expect.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think there's another good conflict. Anytime we learn anything new, so that kind of same mentality, we normally have someone that shows us. There's a conflict sometimes that goes on there between a mentor and a student, as it were.
Yes.
And that kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Or sometimes I think that it's just normal that they kind of test the waters, or that they get too big for their britches. They think they're ready to go on their own or whatever, or maybe they forget, like, where they came from. So then they just kind of, like, treat you like the low person on the totem pole.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that gets into just being comfortable in a position or something along those lines. Is that's when we have to be careful and be in that kind of conflict. Just falling into a role, because our choices do have consequences, both good and bad. No matter if you even want not to make a decision and kind of turn the other way, that's also a choice, and these have consequences and stuff. And I think that's the biggest fear that comes with conflict, is because there's ramifications.
Oh yeah, ramifications. But then I think the more bigger fear for people is that then they have to find a solution, and do they really want to take the effort to find a solution? Because if they get started, they have to finish, and do they want to finish?
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I start a lot of things and I don't finish them. That's probably my biggest struggle. Conflict.
Well, I mean, if you start something, you don't finish it. When you're dealing with conflict, it creates another conflict.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. There's not just, I don't know ever there's just one thing going on, unless you're in school and fully, isolated away from everything and on an island. There's going to be other conflicts than what you're trying to go and do as well.
Actually, we just did preaching on that not too long ago. Like, when people cause trouble for you, you don't even have to be in the middle of a conflict, and somebody could be making a problem for you. They don't even see. Kind of walk over.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And on top of that, sometimes people make conflicts very intentionally, and they're not necessarily bad in general. Just to, I don't think like all conflicts are bad in many different examples. It generally, when worlds collide, when two different perspectives are going on, or when we try to get a different job, what hurdles and challenges are coming up in that conflicts.
Trying to get a different job can be lots of different conflicts all at once. Yeah. I mean, you don't even know what's really going on sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We got a comment in the chat.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna butcher the name. Tezzik, Tezik. I can agree with the idea of to deal with multiple conflicts as a younger person entering the real world. For the first time, balancing a full-time job with other aspects of life becomes a challenge, almost as if each aspect you want to balance becomes a conflict in itself. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. fight for control or whatever.
Welcome to the chat. Thank you. And I think that's the biggest challenge. It's individual for everyone else. Have you ever heard of the game called Calvin Ball?
Yeah, they actually play that a lot here in Germany.
With Calvin and Hobbes, the old comic book with Boy and His Tiger.
Yeah.
And I think it's different for everybody else. Like, not everybody else. It's different for everybody. And that's the whole figuring out how you can do it yourself. And sometimes we have to work for bigger corporations or different stuff like that, but you should realize what effect you're having in that business and in that company. Got a phone call real quick. I will be right back. I apologize.
Yeah. So conflict. Let's see. So yeah, I mean, on a side note, why he's on the phone, trying to find a job. I mean, I know for me, I'm in a company. When people try and come into work, it's to work for me as being part of the person that's doing the interview and the hiring. It can be a conflict. I mean, they could believe that they're overqualified for the position, and then trying to talk to them and see what their qualifications really are. If they don't believe that, they might get insulted and leave hurt or something like that. And I mean, at least for me, I don't ever want to try and hurt the other person, but it's kind of hard to tell somebody that they can work work for you to do a job that they really can't do.
Right, absolutely, and you got to be able to be real and talk with them. And honestly, you might be able to still have a position for them and stuff like that. But it takes a degree of understanding who you're talking to and where they're coming from.
Yeah, I just find that a lot of times if the people are easily hurt, like what I was referring to, they won't take a lesser position because they think they're they should be the big cheese or whatever. But yeah, you can always just try and offer them something else and see what they're willing to take it. But it'd not be a matter of if they're humble enough to or not.
Yeah, absolutely, and you can just put that out there. But it really depends on. I understand as a business, they have certain positions available and stuff like that. And there's a lot that come with these different positions, especially if you're doing lead setup, and you have to know the stuff before it's even set up. And there's regulations to that stuff. At the same time, I've seen jobs that people literally wonder if they're what break they're gonna quit at on the first day, because not because they don't want to do the job, just because it's a very difficult job to do, and it's not for everybody.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't know that until you actually start the job and find it out for yourself. So
yeah, absolutely. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't try and try for different positions. But I think a big part of it, either way, if you're applying to a company or you're reviewing people that are coming in, that you should be honest and forthcoming and genuine and to a certain extent. And
well, that's another thing too. Sometimes when you're trying to get people coming in, they write a heavy, juicy resume, but then you find out they're really not up to par of what they wrote down. So could also be another problem. Is the honesty issues. Yeah.
Absolutely, and then it gets into what other things are they going to get on the job and dates. My biggest fear, like I've done a lot of factory and construction my whole life, so when I see a new kid walk on, I'm like, are they going to endanger me? It's like biggest thing, because it's within a blink of an eye you can have something go wrong, especially with very heavy machinery.
Yeah, the work I currently do here. I mean, doing rigging and stuff like that, you can't have somebody up in the air that's above you 30 feet in the air to drop something on your head. You have to have people that know what they're doing. So it comes down to it too, is that you have to wonder if the new guy's going to be a danger, if they're really But even sometimes the people that have been working there for years, if they're and some of them have tempers. If they're having a bad day, they throw things around and it comes down. You drop
or whatever.
Yeah, you drop a screw from 30 feet in the air. It's like a bullet to the guy down below on the head. So yeah, you have to watch.
Yeah, more than an ouch.
Yeah.
And I think that gets into, there's enough conflict at work. You don't need to be conflicting with your people you're working alongside. That's why, like, certain razzing and, that kind of stuff happens on a work site normally. Super gluing whoever's or welding their tools to the, table is common. But when it's doing stuff, I've seen some things that I tell people is like, don't do that stuff around me, because it's causing an instance where someone could potentially really get hurt. And how do you deal with that sometimes when someone is crossing the line? And how do you confront that? And because you don't want to make a conflict. See, I'm getting back on context. I'm trying.
Well, I mean, I think when it comes down to something serious like safety, if they're doing something on purpose like that, something that they have control of, and they're just refusing to have control of it, then I think there comes a time where you have to make a conflict. You have to tell the guy to smarten up or just get off the job.
Yeah, get off the job. At a certain point, don't work there anymore. And it'll places that generally function like that aren't worth working in, and probably aren't going to be around, or they're going to have a big turnaround rate for the wrong reason.
I mean, I remember when I was working for the power plant, I did safety operations there in their confined space. So I would have to crawl down to the boiling units for the power supply and make sure that they're clean and active and working, and then drill through, because the stuff becomes like concrete after a while from being burnt all the time, and I would have to drill through it and make sure that the holes aren't covered. So if I'm down there, in there, I don't want some idiot turning it on. If they're just playing games and fooling around, then they're not the people, to be on the site, because you're the one that gets cooked. You're the one that gets cooked up, not them.
I was working at a die-cast place, and I would regularly be hooking up water lines and help setting the dies, even though they needed the help, and I'm trying to get somewhere in the company. But the guy, they didn't do proper lockout tagout, which I don't like already. I'd rather have a padlock on that power switch. And two, one time I was in there and he turned the water on directly after seeing me go into it. I'm like, you're seeing this right here. Like, I'm making eye contact with you. I'm going in there. Don't do it. And he turned on the water. Oh, I didn't see you. It's like, I know you did. And why are you pushing buttons on that thing while I'm inside the machine?
Yeah, exactly. And some people are just daft. Like, I mean, we set up our major soccer stadium here, and we already had all the LED digital boards and wires run, and the sound systems and stuff are hooked up down at the bottom. So some guy comes in last minute, decides he wants to power wash the chairs to get the bird poop off. So all that wire is going to go down to the electrical equipment. What do you think is going to happen to all those electrical wires already hooked up? We had to yell at the guy to stop, and the guy didn't want to listen. He didn't listen and tried to tell us that we couldn't tell him what to do and everything. So we literally had to take his equipment out of the arena to get him to stop.
That's scary. The worst, like, I've been very fortunate as much as I've been on factory and construction, I haven't seen too much, really, knock on wood, horrible things go on. I did see, I had something in my mind, and it's slipping. Oh, I did see this happen one time. I was working at not a movie theater, back before Netflix, the old cassette rentals. So it was like Blockbuster, but it was a different company. It was like my dream job, talk about movies and stuff. Anyway, I would start up, and then I'd have a second person in the back, and I'm like, go mop what tile we have, and I'm going to start clearing out the movies. I just up there, and you don't smell mustard gas, but I'm just like, got that little tickle in the throat. I go back there. What did you do? Oh, I mixed this and that. Some bleach and ammonia. Did you use a little bit? No, I used like a half a cup. Take that outside.
More is better, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh man. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen some. I've seen some stuff too. Like even working with quote unquote professionals. Like when I used to be in the fire department and stuff, you get some of those midnight calls just when it's a volunteer department, just the kids show up, right? And they do all kinds of weird stuff. Like we had the trailer truck that went over the side into the ditch. We had had to hook up the wrenching equipment. We hooked up the wrenching equipment, and one of the kids decided before we were ready to turn it on, he snapped one of the cables, whipped it at my head, and I had to dump down under it. And yeah, he did it right for the go. You figured he could just flip the switch whenever he wanted or whatever. So yeah, I've seen some crazy stuff.
Yeah, that's the one time. Like I'm a pretty calm guy when it comes to a lot of this stuff. That's where I come unglued. Is like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's like, where'd you get your training from?
Cracker Jacks.
Yeah.
They don't even have Cracker Jacks anymore. Have little prizes in them.
I wish they did. Nowadays, like even the cereal boxes when I was a kid used to have stuff in them. Nowadays, they don't have anything that they do. It's not anything good. It's cheap stuff.
Yeah. You got a sticker.
Or if you collect 25 of these U.P.C.s and spend $500, we'll send you something by mail.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man. But yeah, so we've talked about relationship conflicts and work site. I'd like to talk a little bit about inner conflicts, because those are probably, it's easier to deal with an external conflict because you're making a decision and you're gonna fuck up or you're not, whatever. But an internal conflict is a whole different playing field. I haven't had a cigarette yet. It's almost been 22 minutes, and I just now thought of it. So there's one of them.
Oh, better watch out. Somebody's counting, you said.
Yeah, I'm trying not to. I don't want to do it. Yeah, I am trying to quit, but not trying to tear myself up over it. That's a big thing.
Yeah. I wonder though. I mean, if we really, I don't know. Maybe there's just some things that we just fool ourselves with, because I think if we really were trying, we could do it. I think if we truly wanted to, we would do it.
I enjoy it. I think that's the biggest thing, is I enjoy cigarettes, and yeah.
Let's just be honest. I mean, we do all kinds of things throughout the course of the day that we don't want to do, right? And then it's because we have to do it. So if we had to quit, or we had to do some kind of task, or if we were truly set on doing that task, I think we would do it.
It wouldn't be so much of a struggle. I agree. If you have a good why, and you understand where you're coming from, it's not hard anymore. You don't have a problem as much confronting that conflict isn't such a big deal. It's more like a video game conflict.
That's another thing too. How about those people that are crazy on you for no reason at all? Could be something like a video game, or something like, you like this particular sports team or something like that, and then conflicts start, or politics.
Well, politics and sports. Well, I guess they're kind of similar. I think that it's a healthy. Well, not. I think it has been already put into us that it's okay to get angry during video games, which I understand letting it out and stuff like that, but it goes too far sometimes. And same with politics. I think no matter which side you're on the politics scale, we need to be more careful putting anyone in a particular big box, because we're all individual.
Yeah, I mean, but I think that that sometimes conflict could also be other people's expectations, and you're not meeting them, so then they say something about it that's out of place.
And I think that's the key thing too, is other people's expectations, and which we do need to be able to look upon the world, whatever it is, and expect certain things, certain behavior. That's the whole loving yourself. And at the same time, we shouldn't be lashing out because of those expectations and stuff like that. It's all right, long as I'm fine. Here's my stance on it. I'm fine with anybody doing whatever they need to be happy and fulfilled in their life, long as they're not harming themselves or someone else. And that covers a lot right there. Now, just because someone does something that I don't particularly like in front of me, it's not enjoyable for me at all, I can allow boundary there. Please don't, flaunt that in my face. I don't appreciate it. It's not really my cup of tea. And if they continue to do that, then there's an issue and a conflict there.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, but yeah, but what if people are doing something that necessarily doesn't do you harm, but it causes an inconvenience for you?
I mean,
where do you draw the line as far as what you will allow, and how do you define harm?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm pretty competitive. I like competitive games and stuff like that. If I worked really hard on it, I should be able to work on stuff. But that doesn't mean people that don't do as much as I'm working on is anything less. They're still fulfilling, their aspects. I hope that it's a genuine, fulfilling experience, because that's what I'm aiming for as well. So there's healthy conflict and competition or competitiveness, and there's unhealthy competitiveness. Would you agree to that?
Yeah.
And that line is pretty fine. And it really has to do with the same thing we're talking about, having mutual ground, right?
Yeah. So how do you stop conflict when there is no mutual ground?
That's a good one. I think there's always some mutual ground, in some manner. Even if, well, let's look at the most extreme. What's the most extreme? And let's not avoid some, like right versus left. Right? Those are two extremes. In which, let's not do that one. Let's avoid politics. It's a very Twitch thing. You want to avoid politics.
Well, let's see. What about
ultimately, I think we're all humans that have thoughts and emotions. We all have passions, and that's mutual ground in itself. Now, what those aspirations and wants and desires are vary from person to person.
So what happens if you find the person that doesn't want to recognize that?
Or how about you want to have a close relationship with someone that doesn't want to recognize that?
Mm-hmm.
You have to accept that yourself, that they don't. Or it's the same thing, or you have to have a boundary. It doesn't mean you can't have a relationship with them. It just means that it's going to be probably more difficult for you to find, and you'll find some mutual ground to stand. My grandpa Gene, it kind of reminds me of my grandpa Gene. He was a hard man, Kentucky, cuddly as a cactus, right? There's a picture of him with my niece, while she was young, and the face she made was just absolutely hilarious. You could tell there was conflict there, but he's smiling like, my granddaughter, and she's like, save me, that face. It was just adorable. So what I'm getting to, though, is I liked hanging out with my grandfather, even though we disagreed on a lot of different things. He didn't believe in gay marriage, and me and him would talk back and forth about it. He still didn't like it, but he agreed that, people should be able to find happiness.
They should be able to find it. Yeah, definitely. So let's see.
I don't believe. I guess I don't believe that there's no mutual ground. Be it rich and a poor man, a rich man and a bum. Absolutely desolate. I think they would have things along. Probably not very many, but they probably have something in common.
So you think?
I guess. Go ahead.
So you think that everybody will always have some mutual ground. So I guess when it comes down to conflict, how come one person always seems to be the one that thinks that they're better than the other person?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a lot. Yeah, pride. But you got to be. That's that fine line to confidence and pride. Where does that line? Because you want to be confident, and know who you are.
Right.
So I guess the real fine line to that would be, I know that who I am and what I can do, but that doesn't make, just because you don't do what I do, any less or better or more mutual and equal footing there.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can see that. But that's a good one. But I mean, don't we sometimes as people have to set that boundary where sometimes you have to be the better one, because if you don't, then people can walk on you too, right? You have to be careful about that too. You don't want people walking on you either.
But you don't want to be cold and distant to everything either, because that's your relationships
exactly.
Have issues. It's easy to say those few things right there, but when you get into the heat of some kind of difference of viewpoint, it gets very difficult, and a lot of that part of it is just being able to let go and being able to understand how I fucked up, because you can't. I read a good book. I can't remember which one. all you get by being right is forcing the other person to swallow a pill, swallow that they're wrong. But a really awesome thing happens when both people can really accept who they are, calm down, and then come together and show their cracks and share. That's the word I'm working for. And with that, I shall have a cigarette because it is getting warm in here.
Yeah, it's hot.
I'm cooking.
Yeah, it's hot
It's
today.
I'm very shiny.
Yeah, we actually had a weather advisory for heat today, so
Yeah, stay safe. You got AC or some way to stay cool at least?
no, here in Germany hardly anybody uses AC. They're like the eco-friendly, so
Yeah, I'm horrible. I live in a tin can, so without the AC, it would be really hot, sauna hot.
yeah, it's like two different worlds. I mean, in the US, every store has the air conditioning stuff. Here in Germany, you're lucky to find one that has air conditioning.
Yeah, I tried. I'm actually working on. Here's a conflict that I'm kind of working on. I want to think of a way to disperse heat out using pressure and small valves, and kind of decide a DIY cooling system that's eco-friendly, because it's possible. It should be anyway. It's just pressures.
That could work.
But my suggestion is to the cool rags on your arteries and stuff like that is probably the best thing. Keep your brain cool. Body can be warm, but keep that brain cool.
Yeah. Or you could just always fill up the bathtub with the ice cubes and jump in.
That's not just don't put yourself in shock.
Yeah, there you go. The Polar Bear Club.
But yeah, that's here you can be in a conflict in with your environment. That's a very important thing to be aware of.
Yeah.
But I'd like to revisit some more relationships. It's conflict in relationships. It's probably a real big one, and be it you're the child, growing up with parents that don't understand or whatever. That's bad, probably way to put it, but or there's life struggles going on, as well, and they're frustrated, or improper things are happening. It's not really enjoying the environment. Or you're a parent. That's another one. And you're trying to struggle with what you have and trying to provide. That's and your relationships with your friends and your close people with you, like your parents.
Yep, I like that.
There's only so many hours in the day, though.
Yeah, I mean, talking about to people all the time. Sometimes they're just never gonna get it. And that's the thing. That's the thing about conflict, is that you gotta know when to cut your losses.
Yeah, and I think it gets to a point where it's really malicious, and it's literally trying to hurt the other person, that you really should start reevaluating and seeing what you can do to change the situation. So that's about the only thing we have control over in any conflict.
I always try to ask myself, does it really matter that much? I mean, I can just keep doing what I'm doing what I'm doing, regardless of whether the other person gets it or not.
Yeah.
I mean, if I see it causing more trouble, then just forget it.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And it really, at what point are they causing more harm? And than doing good. Like what is that fine line? I look at it as if someone is obviously very hurt by something I did or something like that, it's like, well, try to talk with them, but at a certain point you got to withdraw, give space, and so you can come back, or not come back. They need tournaments away from space, you know. And it's a hard thing to go through, you know. What's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like an ultimatum. Those are generally means that things are really, really wrong. You're getting an ultimatum or you're giving an ultimatum. Either way.
The way I think about it is that if the other person stops listening, then it's over anyway.
Yeah.
I think that's when it would start to get to be given to awkwardness. I mean, if we're in a conflict and you just don't listen anymore, then what's the point of continuing the conflict other than to have it escalate?
Yep. Absolutely.
And then that comes back to the old question too. Are you really in a conflict if the other person is still listening? Or are you just trying to talk things out? I think sometimes people think that there's a conflict when it's really a discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I like conflict in some different forms. It's a good idea of like what conflict really is, like chess. There's some conflict in chess. In a good chess game, you know, looks very chaotic, but it's not, you know, especially if it's seasoned players. Or first-person shooter games, you know, everyone sees the conflict of trying to aim, but there's a lot of practice there, routine, and working with teammates if you have them.
That's how you just get the hand grenades and you don't have to aim.
Take everything out.
Sort
the bodies later.
Running with the pins pulled.
Just remember to throw the grenade, not the pin. Pull grenade. So I totally agree with you. Most of the conflict that we make are internal conflicts.
Yeah.
And I think we all conflict with perfectionism as well. Sometimes we get frozen with waiting for it to be just right. You know, and it never gets out there.
Yeah, or the other person has to be perfect or whatever. Yeah.
I guess the big one is what do you do when you run up with someone that is very competitive and it's only one position available, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can always try and let them think that think that they're the top dog if they're not, and then watch them hang themselves, or you could just realize it doesn't matter that much. I mean, I think that's where, like I was saying before, you guys see how much it really matters. Does it really matter? If it doesn't really matter, then what's the point?
Exactly. Well, sometimes exactly understanding what's the point, and if sometimes you still want to try for it. Even though you're not gonna make that, and that's really a sign that you're probably right about the right place. Just you might not get that position or whatever, but there'll be other positions out there, and maybe that one wasn't even right for you.
I don't know. I don't know though. If you, I mean, does the hot air of the dragon hurt, or is it the fire of the dragon that hurts? I mean, the person that's usually doing the talking is usually, if they have to talk, they're usually the ones that are inadequate anyway. The person that doesn't have to talk is the one that has the skills, and people will see that.
Okay. Yeah, they're already yeah, absolutely. But you mentioned the fire, of the dragon, right?
Yeah.
That's a total battle too between the dragon. Is a very primal force that is, and in a lot of cultures they have different dragons of the different elements entirely, and it's this. Really, it's not like a campfire and stuff. It would be like something unbridled power. And I think that's in all different forms, not just fire. But we have to be careful about, especially with fire. You play with fire, you get burnt, and being careful with that drive. It has to be tempered as well. It can't just be.
I mean, I don't know. I was just using it as an analogy. The way I was using this as an analogy. I mean, I'm not gonna be worried about a dragon that has smoke coming out of its nose. I'm gonna be worried about one that has fire shooting at me. The one with the smoke can't really do much. It seems like like everything. I mean, it goes to what we were talking about before. And that's how I said it. I mean, the person that feels like they have to overextend themselves usually is doing it because they have to because they're really not is the special. The top one of what they're trying to be. The people that are the top one don't have to overcompensate themselves. People will see it and know. It's kind of like that old. Bad joke everybody has, the person that talks about who has the bigger penis is the one that really doesn't.
Yeah, yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I like to conversate, and it's sometimes I do get on rants. I know I'm one for that. But I don't know if I would call it blowing smoke, and I guess the difference would be. What's trying to be communicated, and
there's a difference between a rant and between trying to talk yourself up too. That's two different things though too. Yeah. Like you can go on a rant when you're trying to do your viewpoint, but if you're just trying to convince somebody that you're better, that's something different than a rant. That's like a different. Yeah. That's a different thing.
Yeah. It's starting to really cook in here. Like I don't know what the temperature is, but it's getting warm. I'm glad the sun finally went down.
Yeah, it probably doesn't help any that you're in metal. The metal probably heats up even worse.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know why they do it. Like, it's silly. And then there's no attic to cause an envelope to vent some of the, give you air to.
Yeah, to go to vent the first convertible, make it so that the top can come off.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
I'd be down for that. But it's just tough because I can't do anything with this stuff right now. So.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to make a home convertible anyway. Yeah.
I did take a roof. The last trailer I was in, I took the roof right off and redid it because it needed it. It looked like someone had a party up there and was dancing. Broken boards. Issues.
Yeah. It's always not so fun to have your broken boards on your roof, huh?
Yeah, broken boards, leaking roof,
Well,
So
must be useful.
yeah, all you can do is cut away and replace. So replaced like 2/3 of the roof, and I think I've completely lost context on conflict.
Well, what you just
yeah,
what you just said, I guess can go into conflicts too, right? And something you have to cut and replace. So how do you repair a conflict? You have to just kind of cut and replace, right?
right. Yeah, you can't bring back material after it's been damaged.
Yeah.
You have to just kind of patch with what you got. I always liked the idea of construction and factory is just arts and crafts with power tools.
Yeah. Or trying to be a sculpture, right? You just take the chisel and the hammer.
Yep, absolutely. Just cut away everything that you don't want there. You're left with the statue.
Yeah. The best is the guys that use the chainsaw. You know, they just carve the wood all up, and whatever's left is their picture.
Yeah, I like those bears and stuff. Wooden sculptures that do with chainsaws. Just cut away everything that's not a bear. That's easy. Yeah, I think the biggest thing to take away is no matter what conflict is going on in your life, that you need to figure out a way that works with you and you can learn from it. I think there's a lot to learn from conflict, and it doesn't necessarily have to be negative. And just like you said, not necessarily conflict at all.
Yeah. Once you find the cause, it's easy to just decide if it's worth your time or not. I think this is finding the cause. That's the thing.
Absolutely, but that takes time and persistence, and
research.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can't just take someone else's word for it. You can look on what other people are doing, and I think that's healthy too, is looking at other people's conflicts and how did they get past it.
Or even
seeing how go ahead.
Or even resolutions, like different types of resolutions that people have had. I think that's the biggest way that people learn, is that they can see, this guy. I mean, some of the laughable things is like Judge Judy, stuff like that. I mean, you can see what didn't work for the other person. You can learn from that. Oh, that guy just ran his mouth. She's gonna have a field day with him or whatever.
Yeah, I'm a little careful of any reality TV and stuff like that. Little real TV. But I do like Judge Judy, and she's a real judge, so she put her time in.
Yeah, of course I'm kind of aging myself because now she's off the air for a while now. Now they have that other woman that took over. I think there's some guy that does it now too, but I didn't watch the new one, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't do TV anymore. Too many commercials.
Yep.
You're like, buy minute, crap. And so I just decided TV wasn't for me. But plugged on that one at least.
I mean, it's kind of funny. Now they're starting to do podcasts of courts and stuff. I don't know. It just became like a trend. Yeah. So it's like that's another thing too. I mean, we're talking about conflict. But what if you're addicted to conflict? People just kind of have to get that hype in.
Well, yeah, and I think that has to do with not just conflict, but we crave social, and it's not. There's this guy. He did. I think his name's Michael. It's been a while. He does Vsauce, Mind Freak. No, not Mind Freak. Anywho, it's a YouTube bread show, and he put himself in a white room with white rice, water bottles, and stuff like that, and had no interaction with anyone. And you'd think you would get so bored that you want to have your voice be heard. But really it was, you're just craving to hear anyone else's voice. Because you're,
That's kind of like that old song, you know, a horse with no name, wandering through the desert.
Exactly. And I think that's, no matter how separate, we're very culturally driven to be social with each other. It's part of who we are.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of why we like the conflict as well, because we get to see that interaction, I guess, a little bit easier.
I think sometimes we ask ourselves why though too. Why do we like this? Why do we like this person again? Well, that's all part of the conflict. I mean, yeah, you can be addicted to it too. I mean, there's people that go striving and looking for it. I mean, if you're gonna waste your time, your free time, sitting inside a courtroom just to listen to other people's troubles, and because it gives you some kind of hype, then you know you got something going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to, I don't mind. I talk to a lot of people, and a lot of people talk to me too. But at a certain point, if it's no longer a conversation and they're literally just coming to blah on me, I kind of feel to a point it's like I'm not getting much from this, and you're not listening to me as well, just like you were saying. And I gotta be like, this is not who I am. I'm not enjoying this, or however you want to say it. It should be genuine to you. Try to communicate with them, but at a certain point you have to either take it in small doses or not. If it's really bad, not at all, you know. And it's hard to pull that trigger sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, you just gotta know like who. I mean, it goes back to what we talked about before. You gotta know who you are. And if you don't know who you are, you can't avoid conflict.
Absolutely. And that's it. Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't really look into the mirror and stuff, you may just agree to these things without ever thinking about it. It's if you don't really look in the mirror, other people are gonna viewpoints and stuff you're just gonna subscribe to them without feeling, and then that's gonna come into later problems, you know.
Yes, robot syndrome is a conflict.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they did this great study where they had all actors in this fake dentist office, right? And the person comes in, and there'd be a ding of the bell, and everyone would stand up. And for a while, the one person that's not an actor, you're like, what is everyone doing? But after a while,
he would stand up.
He'll start standing up. Why? Because everybody else is standing up. There must be a reason.
Yep. It's kind of like here. I mean, people just do things out of habit or routine, just to do things, and they don't even know why they do things. So if you don't do those things, you just sit out of the norm, normal. It's like they want to cause conflict against you for not doing those things, but nobody can tell you why they do those things. That's why I think it's important that you know yourself. Because if you don't know yourself, I think then you're inevitably going to cause conflict. You'll be a conflict causer rather than finding solutions to conflicts, because you don't know yourself, and then you make conflict with everybody else around you because you're out of place.
I don't know. I cause a bit of chaos, but when I go out to the bar, you've seen my top hat, wherever it is. I actually wear my top hat and go out, because people are like, oh, they like the hat, and or they'll engage with it and stuff like that. I think that's a part of a conflict too. It's like, do I say something about the hat that people have? And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. But it's always interesting, like how that people react. I'm a people watcher. I like to sit back and have my meal. I'm normally sitting by myself, so I'll just look around the room and watch certain interactions. The one, I don't know if I said this story before on Twitch, but the one I really liked recently, there was this older couple. They were sitting there, and he was watching the sports, and golfing was on and ice, and the wife there was trying to catch his eyes. You could see her leaning forward, trying to be like, and then when they finally met, the smile, and the interaction there, that was really nice to watch. And fortunate to see that. And I wanted to share. So it was, I think there's a part of a conflict there. Good romance and good, any friendship, there should be some kind of interaction and conflict. Because if you 100% agree, what do you, it's more like a two output monologue. I don't know.
If you guys 100% guarantee it's not a relationship, it's a cult.
Yeah, absolutely. I got another comment here in chat from Ash Moonchild. Oh, long time no see. Greetings, mortal, from the world away. 'Tis I, Ash the Moonchild. Hey, how you doing? Welcome.
Reading from the land of Mars. I am coming back to Earth today.
I think Land of Oz. I always get. I'm more of a Neverland person, I guess, traveling in the woods.
Mm-hmm. If you think about it, those books are even about conflict, right? They went to Oz, and there was a conflict going on in Oz, and then they went to Narnia. There was a conflict going on in Narnia, and then they went to the other one, Peter Pan or whatever. Conflicts been around forever inside the children books and stuff.
Absolutely. The Grimm Tales, Hansel and Gretel. That's a good conflict. And there's some old, like the stories go way back. You're probably more familiar with this one than I am. The Baba Yaga. Am I pronouncing that right? The lady with the hut.
Oh, okay, yeah. Isn't that kind of like a Hindu tradition? I think.
I think it's
one where she feeds off of like your bad dreams, right? And she's like a fairy eater. Yeah. Baba Yaga. Yeah.
But yeah, I think a lot of these stories and stuff, they were trying to do the same thing, keep information out there and make it pass downable.
Yeah, I mean, every culture has something like where they would tell their kids something like in Africa they have stories of giant spiders that come and take bad kids at night, so they'll tell their kids they have to behave, otherwise these giant spiders will come and rip their houses apart, and take them away into the jungle.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I was just telling someone the other day about the doppelganger, when a kid would be really sweet, and then there'd be a doppelganger that would be replaced early on, and when they got to a certain age, they started acting differently. So they swapped out their child with this unruly one, and then they would just disappear, back with the Fey realm or whatever. But yeah, all conflicts in all these different stories, and why. One of my favorite ones, it's been watered down with the genie, Aladdin, but the Wishmasters, the Jinn.
Okay.
Yeah.
They've been around forever. I mean, the Native Americans used to tell tales about them and stuff. That's why they would build their dream cat catchers and stuff like that. Uh, hmm.
But yeah, there. I remember one of my favorite stories is the Arachne, I believe it was, from Greek. You know, where she weaved so well that she competed with anyone of the land, and then competed against which feminine deity, but they had a weaving contest, and well, how the story goes is the weaving contest went on between this mortal and a god. The god, they weaved all night, and the god weaved a beautiful tapestry. So Zeus on Mount Olympus, Hades, carrying the dead, traveling of messages of, man, really brain farting today. Anyway, and it was beautiful, flawless, right? And Athrine, probably butchering that too, Arachnia, she weaved just as beautiful tapestry, but it was a mirrored opposite. It was Zeus's infidelity, Hades' lust for power, and all the darker attributes of the gods. And it was tore asunder because, how dare you blast the gods, and she ran out back and hung herself. She ended up taking pity on the god, took pity on her, and turned her into a spider, and forever to weave webs but look grotesque with 3 sections.
That's interesting.
So, and there's conflict in that story, and it's and I think that's why internal conflict is probably one of the hardest things to overcome, and it really is understanding why and what reasoning you have to do this thing that you're trying to overcome.
Yeah, I mean, talk about stories, Beauty and the Beast, he was such a beautiful prince that he got too conceited and then they get turned into this wicked monster. You have to find somebody to make him love his wicked side before he get turned back into normal again. But that's kind of the way it is with conflict, right? If you cause a trouble within conflict, right, like inside your relationship, you have to find a way to replace that. Sometimes it is actually that you're on like a clock or a timer before the last petal falls or whatever from the flower.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's always, I believe that too, is like there's always opportunities still. And it's about the only opportunity you have is right now to make a change. Sometimes it's the smallest steps, but it's a process.
So, what do you think about the whole conflict of this whole sexual stuff, the sexual conflicts?
Yeah. So, I hope I don't get banned for this one, but yeah, I agree that there's definitely, because we don't really want to talk too much about sex then.
Okay.
As long as we keep it fairly cut and dry, it should be fine.
Right,
but you can, go ahead. So, what's your viewpoints on sexual conflicts?
I don't know. I just see that like people like to say things like it was unsexually ethical for the Little Mermaid because she was inside the little seashells or whatever, or like they like to say things like I don't know, like things like that. But I think things are like if there's like a conflict going on inside of you, I think that's why you can take such an easy offense to things, so that and take things out of proportion because it's something inside of you.
Yeah, absolutely. I also would mention, like, in that relationship of a sexual based relationship, that there's conflict as well. Not always negative, but like there's a dance that goes on there in the old times. Not old times, in barn parties. You remember the old barn parties? I didn't, but before my time, but I heard that they would have these barns and they would all come together and dance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, alongside the dance floor, they would have hay, and it was a very animalistic thing, and it's understanding that side of us, but at the same time, being able to hone that into something that's really beautiful as well. It can't be either extreme. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and,
So like,
public display, like public displays and stuff like that. I don't know, maybe save it for the bedroom. I mean, how passionate can you be if you're doing this in public?
Yeah, absolutely. But we see it everywhere in advertising, and it's in lots of different forms. And I'm not even talking about how it's done in YouTube and stuff like that.
I think the advertiser's main job is to cause conflict, because whenever there's an advertisement, it's always something that they on purposely do to be out of the norm with, like they're seeing an issue like in society or something that's going on that's popular nowadays, and then they take it to a new extreme.
Yeah, a little bit of shock there, so that stands out. Absolutely. You don't even need to know what's being sold, they say. You just have to get their attention.
I think they kind of help these conflicts to come up because I think they push the issues to nowadays. Like, when you see it advertised a lot, then I think people get on the bandwagon with it a little bit, and they can take it to the streams.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest issue, is taking it to extremes. We need to really, as a cult, like, I don't even know how that would be possible. Like, as individuals and a culture come together and be like, some of this stuff isn't okay, and but we're having a lot of new technology happen. I'm one of the VR people as well. Like, I have a VR stuff, but we won't know that effect on society, like that big market scale. VR's been around for a while, right? But we won't know the effect on our brain development, especially with kids getting VR and getting that interaction. We don't know how that's going to change our relationships as individuals and with culture.
I think that probably make it so that people can't deal with conflict more because they'll be too busy inside a fake world. I mean, if something comes up that's conflicting, they just hide to the fake reality.
Right. And then and that's the other big question too, is like, if you are in this fake reality, and would you ever really want to get out of that again if you could snap your fingers and have things the way however you'd like to perceive them, even if you were working now in virtual environments, controlling robots somewhere? Why would what reasons would you leave? If you're completely fooling all of your senses.
Yeah, I think it comes back to the old tales of, well, the genie could do that, right? They made your wish come true, but it was a consequence. So it's something that you didn't really want. But I think if you hide too long inside there, I mean, everything can seem okay, but it's not really okay. It's not something that you really don't want. And I think that also, if you lose track of reality, you still have to deal with reality when you come back out. I mean, there's bills to pay to keep the power that supplies that device, and there's the bills to pay to keep a roof over your head where the device is stored. I mean, you have to pay if you're making payments on the device. You have a reality too. You can't actually do that inside the
Yeah.
VR. The way you do go to work in the VR.
Yeah. Well, I think I don't know. You don't think that it would be a possibility for someone to work in VR and run some automated robot and handle the the function, because robots are good at repeating the task over and over again, but they're not very good at adapting and coming up with new situations and handling problems.
Maybe if you get lucky, but that'd be like what, one in a million job. I think that if we get to that point where people use this virtual reality to do the work, people won't be doing the work. Robots will be doing the work themselves. Let's just use a fake UI, and the robot will be completely self-sustained.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I enjoy a lot of the automated learning and stuff like that that they have out there, having iterations of a particular action or photo identification. And I think it's going to be a while before they already have it, so it's very difficult to tell if a human did something or an automated system. They already have some that will hire other people and then take what they did and replicate it until it has an issue, and then hire someone, as a manager. They have having it do that. So, but I don't think we'll ever run out of an individuals needed to make decisions. I guess.
Somebody has to be there when the machines mess up. I mean, they tried to virtual VR a couple of factories with the automated machines, and the machines didn't stop, and they were supposed to stop, and they ran all the factory workers over. They ran through the stands where the factory workers stand on to move the product, and knocked them down, and everybody fell through to the bottom floor. They were killed.
Yep.
Stuff like that.
Accidents, yeah, could happen.
I think. I mean, the machines are going to miss their mark. I mean, I don't think they're going to be 100%. I mean, they want to put out all these fully automated cars that stop and everything. I don't think that that's possible. Machines mess up. I think there's going to be times when those cars are not going to stop, or you're not going to be where you want to be when you're inside this virtual reality car. I mean, who's to say, because the car drives itself, if it's even going to have a windshield, so who's going to say you even will be able to see where you're going, right? So what, you watch TV or something on the screen in front of you, and then you go to step out, and then the car messed up, you step over the side of a cliff or something? I don't know. Who's to say?
I think it'll be kind of like the internet. The internet started off being, we didn't know what to use it, and now we're talking, halfway around the world almost, as if we were sitting in the same room. And the virtual reality is going to be going the same way. We might even have more augmented reality, where one lays on top of the other. But having robots do everything, I think we're a bit far off from that.
Yeah. I don't think it would be possible. I mean, I know that from the works that I do, that they do have stuff like that for surgery for doctors and stuff, where they can't do the surgery now. The robots do them, but they're guided by the doctors. But I mean, even that still needs to be watched and supervised. I mean, that can easily mess up, and then the machine does whatever it wants by itself. And they have. There's always going to be a chance for it. When you're dealing with something that's electronic, there's always going to be a chance for malfunction. I mean, when the internet first came out, how many mainframes did they go through before they finally found a working mainframe to support what we do today? They went through millions of different mainframes, and how much data got released, and people's personal information got released everywhere that was supposed to get released, and all the flaws and everything. And they always went as a machine.
Security back, all that stuff, and it's constantly evolving, going back and forth. It's fascinating. But I think the same thing will happen with. We're going to find a point that technology isn't going to be so much plain to see on your for us. It's going to more fall into the background. We're going to interact with it without ever knowing it. And we already have some of that stuff. Yeah, and biggest issue, like I agree that I don't see driving happening anytime soon, but maybe there will be a time that you will be able to automate it. You drive. We don't have to worry about truck drivers getting tired, changing shifts. Stopping and starting is a big thing. And
I mean here they already have some of the cars out from BMW that do that. So I think they have 6 or 7 of them that are on the roads now that they're testing out. So they do have like a handful. I think by next year they'll have 20 or something like that out there.
It's an interesting idea to be able to have several vehicles chain themselves together and all react as one vehicle, and it would cut down on a lot of stuff, but I don't know. I believe that there's more that we could be doing to give tools to help people teach each other and ways to implement that. I suck at business though, so I'm probably the worst advice for that kind of stuff.
Well, I think that's another problem with conflict, business conflict. Maybe the tools are there, but people don't want to give the tools because then that means that they would lose business.
Yeah, but it's beneficial for not just them. It would be beneficial for everyone, and I get that idea that it's easier to profit when there's a need and stuff like that. But we're coming up to a time where we had the baby boomer, right? Here's a big conflict. We had a baby boomer, 50, 60, 70 years ago, something like that, right? Big population spike. We're going into the opposite of that. Most people are having one, if not none, no kids, and then maybe 2. So two would be good if you're lucky. Everybody needs to have at least 2 in order to maintain the population now. So if you're not having at least 2, you're under it. Right now, America is just at 2. But in places here, like in Germany, are at 1. And some places are at 0.5. So yeah, definitely that's not. So when the older people die off, then there you go. Yeah, nobody to run anything, and that's some people want that, I guess. But I think that to grow, we need to have growth, and there's no reason why there should be, shouldn't be growth. There's plenty of housing, and food available with everything that technology we have, but should be available, but then there's that conflict thing again, right? If it's available, is it in the interest of business? Yeah, or what conflicts are going to arise from, having it that much available? I don't know. It's interesting. Which way it's hopefully people are being aware of what's going on, and have some time to at least talk about the ideas and different people's viewpoints. Try to be respectful. It's probably getting really late there. Yeah. We started talking a lot later than normal, but I appreciate you talking with me.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate it too. All right.